Hi, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. I'd like to say it's Tag Tuesday, but it's actually Wednesday, and I didn't have my tag ready for yesterday, but I thought I'd go ahead and bring it to you today. I didn't think you'd mind. The tag that I'm going to do today is 10 Books About Me tag, and I saw it on the Book Travelers channel, and I'll put that link down below, and I thought this would be a fun tag to do. And I've got a bunch of tags all lined up. I've been trying to think of answers, some days I'm foggy and some days I'm not. So, bear with me and I'll get some of these tags done. But anyway, the 10 Books About Me tag. So question number 1 on this tag. Which fictional character would you like to be and why? Alright, so Superman, of course. Why would anybody not want to be Superman? I mean, you're the Man of Steel. You're strong. You're good looking. You're fast. You can fly. You got X-ray vision. You got, just all this cool stuff that you could do. I mean, you would be like the ultimate track athlete. Nobody would beat you. Baseball, you could crush the ball. Not to mention what you'd do in football. But anyway, sorry, that's like the ultimate guy's perspective there for sports and just everything in life here. So I would definitely pick Superman. I think that'd be pretty cool. So question number 2. Which fictional or non-fictional character's talents do you wish you had and why? So, we've bounced this question around between friends all the time. I can remember when I was a kid, we'd be playing catch in the backyard and we'd have this question pop up, so which superhero's powers do you want? It was always a question like that. And so when we talk talents, I'm going to actually step out of the book world. I'm going to cheat here, but I'll give you a non-fictional one also that will fit in with the question. But I wanted to do a fictional one, and I looked this up online. I was hoping the movie actually had a book, but I did not see a book that went with it. I don't think it had one. But anyway, I chose Will from Good Will Hunting. I have told my wife this as we've had this conversation before. I would absolutely love to be able to speed read, read through stuff as fast as he did in that movie and be able to remember it without writing it down, that photographic memory. And I'm guessing there's probably, there's definitely some goods with that. There's probably some bads with that as well. But I would absolutely love to have that ability. That would be so cool, and never have to take notes and stuff and be able to recall information. That would be awesome. So my non-fictional character's talent that I wish I had Alexander Hamilton's, and it would go along with Will's talents from Good Will Hunting. Alexander Hamilton had this just awesome ability to be able to take a massive amount of information, compute it in his brain, and in a very short period of time produce massive writings, and it's pretty much for the most part with that. It's the rough draft he was publishing for the most part, because he didn't have time to go through and edit and stuff, and even his rough drafts were pretty darn good, and he could just produce writing like no other. I mean, he was awesome, and so I would love to have that talent. Obviously, as a teacher or it would be neat to be a book writer. That would be cool to be able to do that. All right, so question number 3. After having read descriptions in a certain book, which country would you like to visit and why? And I think it would be really cool. I read this book, Dove, and this is about Robin Lee Graham. He was a teenager, and he went to sail around the world by himself. And I read this, fell in love with the book. There's some National Geographic articles that he wrote in the 70s. I can't remember exactly which year, but in the 1970s. And he went through the islands of the South Pacific. I don't have a certain country that I would want to visit, just the islands of the South Pacific in general. I think it would be really cool. It just seemed like the lifestyle there, as he described it, it was kind of carefree. It was tropical. It just sounded like at least a good place to go on vacation. So that's where I would like to go visit. So question number 4. Which fictional character would you like to meet and why? For this one, I chose, well, first of all, I thought of a lot of books. There's a lot of different characters I would love to just sit down and have a talk with. But the one that I chose was from a book that I read, a book series I read with my daughter a few years back when it came out, and that was The Hunger Games. I would love to have a conversation with Katniss Everdeen and just talk about what was that adrenaline rush like when you were being hunted down in the Hunger Games. What was it like to know that you had to do hunting of your own, and it was you either kill or be killed? What was all that like? I would love to sit down and discuss that with her. I think that would be an interesting conversation, needless to say. Question number 5. Which book has resonated deeply with your own life and why? So, as I thought about it, this is the book that came to my mind, was For Love of the Game by Michael Shara. And I chose this because if you're not familiar with this book, this is about a Major League Baseball player. He's been in the majors for several years, I think 17 years. Is it 17? And anyway, he's had a long career. He's been very, very successful, but he's come to the realization that he's starting to get a little older and they're going to trade him. But he wants to stay with the same team, and so it's just the realization that he's pitching in his very, very last baseball game. And I chose this book for me because I remember when I was the summer after my senior year, and I had these ideas that I wanted to go play college ball and all this, and I went to some tryouts, and it wasn't looking good. And I was sitting in summer ball. I was sitting on the mound in that very last ball game, and I remember that feeling coming over me and the realization that I was not going to be able to keep playing, and this was my very last fast pitch baseball. I knew I'd be able to play old man softball and stuff like that, but it's not the same. And it was my last game, and just he goes through. Obviously, my life at that time is not the same as his, just because of life experiences. But at the same time, just that flood of emotions and just the thinking back to how much fun you'd had with the game, and that was the same for me, and what the game meant to me. So anyway, this resonated with me. Thought that was a good fit. So question number 6: which era, which you have read about, other than your own, would you have liked to have lived in and why? I think for me, the era I would love to have lived in was the Revolutionary War. Civil War's close second in that time period. And both of them are all about, being in a fight for something that is bigger than yourself, fighting for a good cause. And, the idea for the Revolutionary War, forming our country, it was the grand experiment, this idea that democracy could work. Is it perfect? No, by no means is it perfect. But it's that continuing struggle to try to find perfection or try to move in the right direction. And so for me, I think that I would like to have lived in the Revolutionary period. And for me, I think that the Revolutionary War was a world-changing event, and I would love to have been a part of that. Question number 7. What career would you wish you could have had after reading about it, other than the one you've had, and why? And so for this one, I chose the book Camino Island, and it's about a bookseller named Bruce Cable. And he owns a bookshop. He went down to Florida. There's an island off the coast of Florida. He bought a bookshop and built it up. He buys and sells books. He works with writers and just all that kind of stuff. Now, I wouldn't want to be the criminal that he was, because he was also dealing in illegal stolen goods, but I don't want that part. But I would like the other part, being able to just be, own my own bookstore. I've dreamed about if it was financially feasible, just opening right here in downtown. My hometown here, down in the downtown, opening a bookstore and being able to sell books and be able to read and be able to communicate with you guys all the time. And I think that would be a really neat career to go into. Again, without the illegal activity. But all the other stuff, that would be a blast. Let's see, number 8. Which fictional character do you wish you could have married, or which you find delightful, and why? And I think I probably ought to go with delightful on this one, because my wife might get upset with me if I said I wish I married her. But I'm going to go with Volume 8 of the Kent Family Chronicles, The Americans. And there's a character in here. Her name is Joanna Hastings, and I kind of admire her. She's really smart. She was studying to be a nurse. Very smart. She's loyal to the main, I think his name was Carter. Oops, that was good. Carter Kent. And anyway, she's loyal to him. She loved him with all his heart. She was a woman who spoke her mind in a time period where women didn't always speak their minds. She was not afraid to do that. She was great in conversation, and for me, when I think of like my wife, we have great conversations. If you can't have a good conversation with your spouse, then you're in trouble. And so this character falls into all of that. And she got prettier with age. Was kind of the description, she became a handsome woman, and I think that's my wife as I see her. She gets more beautiful with every passing year. And so anyway, those are just some traits that I found that are traits that I like, and found them in that character. So there we go. So I found them delightful. Again, I don't want to marry her. I already got my wife. Number 9, who's your favorite fictional child character with whom you identify and why? All right, and I forgot to bring this book down, but The Ugly Duckling. I always liked The Ugly Duckling. I think I've shared that with you on this channel. In the story, of course, he's adopted into a family, and he's not like the family because he's adopted in. And obviously, towards the end of the story, you start to figure out why. He's a totally different animal. And sometimes when I was a kid, I really felt that obviously I was adopted in, and there were a lot of times I did not feel like I fit in. And I think any adopted kid, adopted in older age, how about I say that? Maybe not so much when they're babies, but when they're adopted at an older age like I was, they get that feeling of not fitting in from time to time. And so I always had that feeling, and I would love to say that I turned out beautiful like a swan, like they did in The Ugly Duckling, but well, you see, it didn't happen. So number 10, which book is the most life-affirming that you have read, and why? And I chose Tuesdays with Morrie. I thought there was just, in that book, there's a lot of great advice that is in there that could help you in life. And I think I shared that with you in an earlier video as well. The older man has a lot to pass on to the younger man, and I greatly enjoyed that, reading that and learning a little bit on my own by reading that. So anyway, this has been the 10 Books About Me tag. Again, I watched it on the Book Travelers channel. I'll put that link down below. I hope you've enjoyed this booktube. Have a great day.